Yeah, I know. Yeah, I noticed that. I was sitting more closer to the center than I normally do.
How are you? I got a question for you. Did you ever find out if the landowner was allowed by law to clear the whole 5 acres or not?
It's a residential property.
That's a big deal as far as what I want to say.
You're talking about letters of recommendation?
It'll be in there, so what I'll do, Barbara.
I did some of that.
Okay.
Okay.
We finally found it.
Okay. And what's our deadline?
Okay.
I've got several letters that are not very current.
We got it. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Right. Okay. 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 All right.
Morning.
I shifted you down one, Commissioner.
Hmm?
I shifted you down.
Yeah, that's good because there's no chairs over here.
Yeah.
Every time I come, there's never one for me. That's a good one.
So I'll pull it up after the meeting.
All right. Last time I didn't. I did a resume.
Are you guys talking about for reapplying or?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know we had to do letters of recommendation.
Oh, really?
I need to, they won 3 of them, and I guess the deadline's tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, Mel was telling me that he might not run again.
Really?
I don't know.
Huh?
He wanted me to chair, but I said, no, somebody else, man.
That's where we used to go out to properties, or we can go into, and just go up and take pictures. I guess it was. Yeah, for staff input, we'll go out there and do a demonstration for you guys. Oh, sorry, no, he's not gonna be here, and Mal said he was gonna be here.
Okay.
So that's it.
Okay.
Frankie's supposed to roll a bunch of us. So I'll go in there and check them out once in a while. Kevin's inputting URs. But have Randy give us a training on Airbnbs. Staffing. Maybe they were, I need to. I know the basics, but I don't know. Some of them, a lot of microphones, they're gonna be out, stuff, you gotta print out a bunch of sheets.
Are we ready? All right. Good morning, and welcome to today's meeting with the Doñan County Planning and Zoning Commission. It's April 14th, and it's April 14th. This time we'll call for a roll call of officers.
Commissioner Zargis,
Present.
Commissioner Thurston,
Here.
Commissioner Herrera,
Here.
Commissioner Lear,
Here.
and Chair Montañez.
Present.
Thank you. We have two commissioners not present today.
All right, at this time, I will call for approval or changes to the agenda.
I'll move the agenda as presented.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right, we've got a motion, a second to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Our agenda is approved. This time, the chair calls for an approval of the minutes, the regular meeting minutes of March 24th, 2022, and the work session minutes of March 10th, 2022.
I'll move that the minutes from the work session on March 10th and for the regular meeting on March 24th be approved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, our minutes have been approved. Any old business to discuss?
The case.
Okay, case number Z22-001. Albert, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, Commission.
Good morning.
Oh.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Albert Casillas, 845 North Motel Boulevard.
Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Commissioners, our first case today is going to be a zone change request from Mr. Juan Villarreal, who is present here. The location of the property, it's 130 Tornillo Flats Road in Chaparral, New Mexico. Existing zoning, it's a T2, a rural zone, and the request is to do a zone change on 5.11 acres from a T2 rural zone to a T3 neighborhood edge zoning district. And this is in order to subdivide the property into 5 one-acre lots. Here we have a location map of the property. This is a state line drive and county line drive, so kind of like on the southern eastern corner of the county down here. Tornillo Flats Drive, which is county maintained, and here is the subject parcel. And this is just an aerial photo of what the property looks like right now. This is a photo from 2018. And here we have a zoning map. So basically, everything in the lighter green, it's all T3 zone. So it's currently surrounded by T3 all the way around. This right here, it's all the T2. A description of the property, it's 5.11 acres, T2. Currently, the T2 zone only allows for a minimum lot size of 2 acres if you're in a platted subdivision, which is the case here. If it was not on a platted subdivision, our code does allow for those properties to be reduced to a minimum lot size of 3/4 of an acre through the claim of exemption process. So platted subdivision, 2 acres, non-platted, 3/4 of an acre in a T2 zone. Before the EDC, of course, this property was zoned performance district. Back then, similar rules where if you weren't in a platted subdivision, you could still go down to 3/4 of an acre. When we adopted the UDC, then it got that T2 designation. The applicant bought the property in 2017 and then submitted their zone change application on December 16th of 2021. It's kind of hard to see here, and it's also in your packet, but basically, on the conceptual site plan, we have Tornillo Flats Road down here, but I'm just going to go back to, you can look at the zoning map. He's basically proposing to do something similar to what's already immediately north of him, kind of like a 5 lot split right here with the internal road going down the middle with the cul-de-sac at the end. So that's basically what that shows on your hand. It's a little hard to see the lines. When we zoom out on the area, we can pretty much see that everything around there, it's pretty much residential out there. We have Tornillo Flats Road. Across the property, there's some mobile homes. There's a house south of them. Looking at some of the pictures around the property, this is Tornillo Flats Road. We're looking south. This is the subject parcel here to the right. That's the existing parcel. Another view of the 5 acres. Surrounding areas, so we look across Tornillo Flat and we see that it's residential. There's some mobile homes. Those are just the properties that are immediately east of the subject parcel. So when we look at zone changes, we got to look at the general notice requirements for zone changes, the decisional criteria. For notification purposes, we did send out 16 letters. Everything was posted on the Sun News. Signs were posted in a timely manner. We had the agenda posted on the county website. We did get 1 letter in opposition for this request, and that's included on your packet. But to summarize that letter, which was submitted by Neil and Monica Rose, they're stating that until a resolution for major topsoil erosion is reached, we oppose the zone change. In 2020, the entire 5 acres of 130 Tornillo Flats was cleared of all natural vegetation. Our property is constantly inundated with topsoil. Allergies are triggered every time the wind blows, making us sick. Landscaping is dying because of loose topsoil. Existing 6-foot fence has loose soil buildup in some places halfway up from the ground. So this is just kind of like a summary of what their letter stated, but their full letter is in your packet. And then these are some of the pictures that were submitted by the Roses. Kind of like the wind, how it gets during a windstorm out there. This was back in 2020, March 2022. And they're circling out piles of dirt that are on the property. And additional pictures of some of the buildup on their property and along their fence. And just additional pictures of existing landscaping on Mr. and Mrs. Rose's property. For the here's a picture of the notification sign for the hearing. Those were some of the properties that were notified. For staff analysis, they're proposing 5 1-acre lots. We don't think that there's going to be any large impact to the population with 5 additional lots. The applicant states that there's going to be no major impact to demographics. We're not anticipating any impact to traffic flows. It's going to provide additional affordable housing options. Water is provided by Colquitt Water. There's going to be septic tanks in there to handle wastewater services, and they're going to be per New Mexico Environmental Department standards. There is sufficient infrastructure capacity for the proposed use and additional infrastructure needs as required. There's no evidence of any environmentally sensitive areas, animal species, or plant life in the area that will be affected. Similar existing residential uses within the area of the proposed zone change. There will not be any significant impact on surrounding properties according to the applicant. The applicant states that, they are going to be using best practices during construction of the summary subdivision, and we do believe that the applicant meets the decisional criteria. When it comes to the comprehensive plan, there are several goals and actions that the zone change meets. Goal G2.2, and one of the items in there is to safeguard and extend desirable neighborhood character. Action A2.2, preserve existing neighborhood's character. And there's items in there about, there's goals also about, providing marketable and affordable housing on there. There's an action of, providing 23,000 housing units in a variety of types. So we believe that the zone change is, it's not in conflict with the comprehensive plan. When it comes to decisional criteria, Tornillo Flats was phased by the county in 2020, improving road access to the subject property. So, that can be considered as a change of conditions out there. Before it was dirt roads, now you have a county paved road, right adjacent to it. When it comes to addressing the need to cover and perfect a previous defective ordinance, T2, like I stated before, and like you've heard before, if you're in a platted subdivision, you can only go down to 2 acres. If you're not in a platted subdivision, under the claim of exemption, you can go down to 3/4 of an acre. And before, under the performance district, you are already allowed to go down to 3/4 of an acre. The 5 parcels immediately, that's a typo, north of the property are approximately 1 acre each, and they were created back in 1995. And these are just a comparison of some of the uses that are allowed under the T2 versus the T3, which are, they're pretty much still the same. I think under the T2, there are some allowances for ag uses if the property is assessed as ag, but for the most part, you can still have single-wide mobile home, double-wides, or site-built homes. So for staff findings, they're all included on your packet as well. But basically, the zone change request for the T3 satisfies the decisional criteria for zone change. We do believe it is appropriate and it is compatible with the existing residential developments around the property. We don't think the T3 would be considered a spot zoning as either. And it's not in significant conflict with the comprehensive plan. There's several goals and actions that support this request. So on our recommendation for this request today, it's a little bit different than what I had included originally on my case analysis. What we're proposing today is that for conditional approval of this case, the applicant must provide erosion and dust control measures for the prevention of damages due to soil movement from wind, water, gravity, or mechanical means within 30 days from date of decision to correct the grading grubbing without a permit. Kind of like the reason we went with 30 days versus 10 days as originally proposed is that for 5 acres, it does require a grading permit. It does have to be engineered stamped, and a SWIP is required. So we're just giving the applicant additional days to comply with that. I think 10 days is kind of too soon to get all those documents together. But that's what we're proposing for this zone change request, conditional approval based on that he provides those documents for the grading that was done without a permit. And that's the end of our presentation, and we stand for questions or comments.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner?
what kind of soil erosion control packing on the dirt or on the lots would be allowed, like crusher fine or et cetera?
There's different measures that the applicant can do, and I can probably have Bernadette kind of come up here and explain them a little bit better. But there's silt fencing that can be done. There's watering of the property, like coming up with the schedule for that, just to mitigate some of that dust that's blowing over every time there's wind. But there's several options. But whatever they come up with, it does have to be stamped by an engineer. That plan does have to be stamped by an engineer because it is 5 acres.
And all that has to be done 30 days if it is approved?
That's what staff is asking for, 30 days. And the reason is because, we understand that it does have to be engineered stamp, so we're just trying to give them a little bit more time to comply with that.
Just to be, Albert, just for clarity here, it's just showing, especially in one of these letters, so the applicant removed the existing vegetation, but was there any actual grading that was started other than removing the vegetation?
I'll let the applicant address that, but from what it looks in the photos, they just, they grubbed and graded everything out. Well, grubbed everything out. I don't think there was any, movement of the land, but or any grading of the land, but for sure grubbing of all the vegetation.
Okay. Any other questions before we hear from the applicant?
Chair, I have a question. We're dealing with only the zone change. We're not dealing with the 5 lots.
That is correct. If the zone change goes through at a later date, the applicant will have to submit a summary subdivision application for 5 lots and go through agency review and all those procedures.
Okay, so what we're asking the client to do, or the applicant to do, is to, if we approve this, within 30 days, he has to correct or come up with a way to keep dirt from leaving the 5-acre area?
To mitigate the dust that's being generated right now by wind, if the zone change is approved, it's still going to take the applicant time to come up with the application for the summary subdivision. But basically, by putting this condition in there, we're stating, you have 30 days to correct this issue. We're not going to wait for the applicant till, maybe a year later come down and submit the summary subdivision and have nothing done on the property in the meantime.
Okay, and then am I understanding that the applicant then went in and cleared and grubbed the area before the application?
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, at this time, we'd like to hear from the applicant. Does the applicant like to speak?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please state your name and address for the record and raise your right hand?
Yes, good morning, gentlemen, ladies. My name is Juan Villarreal, and I live in Canada, 215 Queen Street East, Brampton, Ontario.
Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, so Mike, what I have done in the past, and I grew up in Chaparral, New Mexico. I grew up and then moved to different parts of the country and then finally outside of the country, but decided to come back and try to provide some projects in New Mexico. Back in from 2014 to 2017, I work in investment and finance in real estate and in development. And so we started purchasing lots, and the purpose was to identify a project that would coincide with the Doña Ana County Master Plan. And when we looked in Chaparral, where I grew up, if I reflect from back in 1983, not a lot has changed. And, we still have certainly a little bit more paved roads. But based on the Doña Ana County Master Plan, it identified some deficits or deficiencies where the county could improve. And among those deficiencies were to focus on colonia districts, which is what Chaparral is considered. And in there, it does talk about affordable housing, but and access to property. However, with the current, sometimes with zoning requirements, the people that would like to move, in this case, the majority are coming from Texas or El Paso. The challenges that they meet are that, one, banks are really not interested in financing land. So then they have to either come up with a huge down payment, a significant amount. I know Mr. Colquitt, they do have a financing program that's accessible. So what we wanted to do is identify pieces of property that we can purchase wholly and then provide financing without having to increase the cost. And so we started doing that. Most of the time, it was just pretty dry and cut 1 acre lots, 2 acre lots, and they would be subdivided into 1 acre lots, et cetera. This other project that we acquired, it's slightly a larger parcel of land of 5 acres. The zoning is a T2 zoning. The adjacent community, 75% of all the lots around that same property are T3, which is what we're considering. At this point, we're not suggesting or discussing or moving or requesting a construction permit. That's not the intention. It's merely perhaps in the future to see what best use of land we can do by doing a zoning change first, because then this would allow us a little bit more flexibility of what to do there. The whole idea is to make it affordable. And we finance it too, but certainly with more, if you look at what we've done, we have 7% interest rates, which is way much cheaper for people to access without a 30 or 40% down payment. This would actually benefit the project of Las Colonias, in my opinion, and even though it's a small parcel, but it would make certainly a significant difference for people that are in need of property or affordable property. And to give, to put it to numbers, even at 7%, and some of the properties that we sold are probably about 15% under market value. So an acre in Chaparral, for example, if you look at south of the county line or county line of Otero, south of that, if it has utilities, you're probably looking at it anywhere from $50,000 to, in some cases, $57,000, $60,000. We still maintain and sell by contract at 45. And this is to try to mitigate and provide some way of participating in the community. I still have family in Chaparral. And we built our house. We had 2 properties, one in Doña Ana County and then one in Otero County. And so back then, we didn't have any guidance. So, for example, we have a 2.5-acre lot where we started building. We had a mobile home first there, then we started building, in that same property, because that's pretty much what happens when you're lacking capital resources. And so we started building little by little, but one of the biggest problems that we found was that we had a 2.5-acre lot property, but we didn't have any guidance, and so we didn't know that we could split the property or how to go about those process. So my request, and the reason I'm making those references, is because those are real situations that people with very low access to capital or resources have and face. And so our objective is simply to, in the future, determine how to best use this land, but with the current T2 zoning, that would not make it possible to, unless we subdivide it like Mr. Casillas stated, on a 2-acre parcel. But our objective is to provide accessible housing or opportunities, and in doing so, we would need and require a T3 zoning. I can name all of the surrounding properties, including the one across us, which is, I believe, they express concerns, or the residents in that property express concerns of soil vegetation movement and dust. My answer to that, and again, it's I don't see how, if you're familiar with Chaparral, it's open land, and I don't see how even anyone could put in a trailer or mobile home without moving vegetation. The dust issue. Does it come from my space? That's very, very hard to assess. All of Chaparral is open space. If we look at wind patterns, so wind patterns from October through March are east direction, and I am facing west. But then the latter part of the year, they go from the west to the east. So then at which point, if the concern is dust, I would say Chaparral is a whole concern as an entire city because of no pavement or sidewalks, et cetera. I am not suggesting, or we're not petitioning the commission to grant us a construction permit, which then we would be obviously following through with the requirements such as putting in, mitigating dust options. We're simply merely asking for a zone change to T3. Being away from the city, my brother and very close friends that I went to high school with and even wrestled in high school. I was not aware of any other requirements to remove. In this case, it would be like mesquite plants from the property, so that I could prepare it and petition for a T3. But my intention is simply to provide and fulfill some resolutions or solutions for the Doña Ana County Master Plan of providing accessible and affordable housing. That's all that we are intending to do. And so my petition is to request the commission for a T3 zone from a T2, which will allow more flexibility. And thank you. But I can answer any questions that you have.
Mr. Villarreal, do you know, can you tell me about when the grading and grubbing was performed on the property?
I'm sorry?
How long, can you tell me how long ago the grading was performed on the property?
I think that was like in 2019. We purchased the property, I believe, in 2018, 2017, the latter part of 2017.
And at that time, were there plans for development of that property?
Yes. So at that time, we felt that perhaps the best, we wanted to approach the city and in fact, I sent a couple of letters and provide a mobile home community. But we were inquiring only because then we realized that I was in contact with the engineering department from NMSU. And they said, well, for that type of, even to put in 20 or 30 mobile homes, for example, that we would need a waste management service system, which was incredibly expensive outside of any project that we would be interested in pursuing.
Okay. And Albert, would a mobile home community have required T3 zoning? I don't believe it would.
Zoning-wise, we have a zoning designation for mobile home parks, which is DM. Let me just verify to see if it could also be done through a special use permit. And under the T3 zone or even the T2 zone, a special use permit.
Special use permit.
Would have been the way to go for that, yeah.
Thank you.
But I'll just point out, the fact that they're on septic really limits them on the number of homes that can be on the property.
Any other questions from the commission?
Steve, can I just interject something?
Yes, sir.
We're going to be using this lift out here to change light bulbs. If the BP becomes a nuisance, just let them know and we'll stop.
Absolutely.
We're trying to get this project done. So.
Thank you very much, Hattie. Thank you for letting us know. Are there any other questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair, you have seen the staff recommendation for the conditional approval of this, requiring the 5 acres receive a grading permit have it engineered, stamped, and do the stormwater pollution prevention plan. Are you aware of what that means, and are you willing to do that?
I am actually, I would be opposing to do that because I'm not aware of any other property next to me that has been required to do the same, when all my property is nothing different than my surrounding neighborhood. If you see the photos that were displayed, it almost seems like I am, this property is like a special condition for my property. Even like these homes, they don't have any, or I guess vegetation was removed. If you go around the entire neighborhood, and so I feel that condition would be something that would just be singling my property out. We're talking about, for example, soil, dust. My goodness, look at all New Mexico. Can we determine whose dust is on whose property when east-west or west-east? And if there is, so if there is a concern about the dust from my particular property, I would like to have a soil sample indicating that the soil that they collect from that property originates from my property. That's how I believe. And again, my petition is not to do any construction. If we were going to do any grading or construction or any buildup, yes, for sure, mitigating everything that needs, but we're not requesting, Commissioner, any construction at this moment. When we get ready for that, and we built duplexes in the past, and I'm sure there's a guideline from the commission, and of course, we would abide by every single step of that, sir. At this moment, our simple request is to have a T3, which is, that same zoning that the neighbors, including the ones that have a concern, have, and that's all we're requesting. And if we do engage for planning, we would definitely like to work with the commission to see recommendations as far as, are we going to build duplexes? And I believe from my previous discussions with the commissioner, with Mr. Casillas, we would be able to build two-story buildings in the future if that is allowed under a T3, which is not available under a T2 zoning, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Commissioner?
One question, looking at your site plan with the roads, when were you planning to do those roads? Wouldn't that include remission of some of the clearing out here?
Sure. No, I think it was only expressed because the neighbors next to us have that structure already. I spoke with some of them, and they said that they had, I guess, gone through a change or parceling out. But that kind of made sense because I was, back then, at that time, we were analyzing the zoning requirements. And even when we spoke with the New Mexico Environmental Department, they said, well, you're only allowed to have one septic tank for minimum every 3/4 of a parcel. But that's, we don't want to do that. We wanted to provide something a little bit more, a better project, for lack of better words. And so I contacted the people or the owners, some of the owners of the properties adjacent to me that had that structure. And I asked them how they were able to get that. And they said, well, they went through a zoning change. And so I made a reference to that because it was something similar. But even, we may not have that as our next step. But the zoning T3, it was just mainly for illustrative purposes. But the T3 zoning, Commissioner Sargis, would allow us more flexibility with something more real that we can work with the county.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, you're welcome.
Any other questions from the commission? Eileen, I want to apologize, and I want to apologize to the rest of the commission. I forgot to ask the public register to speak. So has anybody signed up at this time?
No.
Okay. So anybody, I do understand there's some public comment, that there will be some public comments. Anybody who wants to speak, I'm going to go ahead and allow them to approach the podium and speak, and please sign in with Eileen prior to. Thank you.
Any more questions for me, commissioners? Okay, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
That's T3.
Okay, will you be the only,
I think I'm understanding it.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record and then raise your right hand.
My name's Neil Rose. I live at 133 Tornillo Flats, Chaparral, New Mexico.
Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
go ahead, sir.
Morning, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. I'm not nervous. I'm just extremely upset. If this was just a minor dust issue for me and my family, I wouldn't be here. I can handle the dust. I've lived in this area my entire life. You guys know how the east winds are. We get brownouts all the time. I don't have a problem with dust. I don't have a problem with dirt. If this gentleman thinks I can pull a soil sample off of my property and it's going to be any different than his, we live across the street. It's the same friggin' dirt. I have thousands of dollars worth of damage on my property. It is not dust. It is sand from him. It never existed on my property until after December of 2020. When he cleared that entire 5-acre parcel of 2020, we have had nothing but major issues with the wind and sand, not dust, sand blowing across. The newly paved road that Doñana County put in was covered in sand the day after he cleared this property. If you zoom in on this picture, you'll see 6, 7 big piles of dirt, cleachy, that the guy who did it left there. When Mr. Glenn Berry was clearing this property, twice I went over there to ask him, can we do something about this? This sand is going to impact me. He called Mr. Villalobos. He was sitting in his tractor, called him, said, the neighbor across the street would like it if you had watered down the property or something here. This gentleman flat out refused it. He said, no, he ain't doing it. He don't have to. Doesn't want to pay for it. That's fine. But nonetheless, I've been in construction my entire life. I know what soil prevention measures are. I've had to deal with engineers, architects, Fort Bliss and the Corps of Engineers. I know what soil prevention measures are. This man took none. And if by law, from what Mr. Casillas here is saying, he wasn't even allowed to clear this whole 5 acres. 1 acre, fine. But the entire 5 acres? Okay, now, when it says we're getting sick, my family is being impacted by this drastically. Every time the wind blows, 2 days ago the wind blew, the dust was the same way, the dirt coming across the road the same way. My son has spent the last 2 days in bed because he cannot breathe. He has a headache. We would think he'd had COVID if he wasn't tested for it. This is beyond just, hey, I've got lots of problems with all this dirt. I can't clean it up. I have a little garden tractor. I can't put a dent in this stuff. So with what he's already done already, it's going to cost me thousands of dollars to clear up. When he does whatever he wants to do in the future with this property without following guidelines and things set by the Doñana County, what assurance do I have that I'm not going to get more property damage from more wind that comes and more work that he does on this property? There's no way he's putting in a road, clearing 5 acres again, doing septic stuff. There's no way he's doing all this stuff and me not being impacted by it. This is not a dust issue. When you look at my fence and see how badly it's buried, you guys all have the pictures we've supplied. It's worse in person than it is. The pictures do not do justice here, okay? Now, you guys might want to say, well, how do you know it's thousands of dollars worth of damage? Okay, Mr. Berry himself agrees that it'll take at least 20 hours to a 40-hour week to clean my property up with bigger equipment than what I have. And then you add in dump trucks and fuel. I'm looking at anywhere from $125 to $300 an hour to pay somebody else to come and clean this up. Are you willing to help me out with that? With your dust problem? I highly doubt it. So, like I said, this is America. Last time I checked, this is supposed to be a free country. I have no problem with this man developing the property and doing what he wants to with it, but not at my expense when it's costing me thousands of dollars. And he just skates on by and says, oh, we all have dust issues. Yeah, no kidding. Thanks for telling me that. I was too stupid to realize that. We all have dust issues. You guys do here in Las Cruces just as well. But you also know how bad the winds get. The dirt on my property that was never there before December 2020 is not dust. It is a major soil erosion issue, and it all stems from his property. Nowhere else. I never had the sand and dust issue we had before he cleared that property. You could come outside in front of my house, it'd be 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and there was never a dust issue until December of 2020. He said they cleared it in 19. No, it was December of 2020. So as far as what they did, I can't see any evidence that they did grading work to get the property ready for anything. All they did is technically clear all the vegetation. They dug out a bunch of tree roots and stuff, and that's what those piles of dirt in the back of those pictures were. But nonetheless, when I contacted the county about this, I contacted the zoning and permits people several times. Never got a call back from any of them. Finally, I talked to an inspector, Joseph Vielma. He took pictures of that property. He said he was going to contact the permit people and get things rolling. I never heard back from him. Now, I'm disabled. I haven't worked in almost 10 years. I don't collect disability. I do not collect welfare, and I won't even welcome it in my house. I am a man of my own means, and I don't cause anybody else property damage around their properties. And if I did, I would surely do right by it and fix it. Okay, so I'm not threatening this man with a lawyer. I'm not going to sue him. I'm not going to do anything about this. I'm relying on you guys to do the right thing. And that is to make sure that he complies with whatever rules and regulations Dona Ana sets, that whatever he has in the future, he's going to do it right without costing me and my family. So that's really all I have to say. I'll be honest with you. After trying to work with Dona Ana County and trying to call people to help with this situation and getting nothing from no one, this is all I have. I can't afford a lawyer to sue this man. I can't afford thousands of dollars to clean up my property. Now, I'm glad this guy works for an investment firm and he can do whatever he wants to and has the money to do whatever he wants to do. But who protects people like me that are poor and can't have the means to fight? You guys are it. You're the only hope I have. So I appreciate y'all's time. I'm sorry that I seem so upset, but my son is at home in bed sick because of all the dirt, not dust, dirt that blows off of your property.
Mr.
You're going to pay for my
Mr.
son's
Rose.
health care costs?
Excuse me, Mr. Rose.
I'm
Please,
sorry.
please address the commission. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. But is there anything you all like to ask me?
Mr. Rose, your biggest concern is in your letter of opposition and from your testimony is the topsoil erosion and the issues that you've had since December of 2020. How do you feel about the conditions that were put in front of us regarding this zone change, especially to mitigate the dust?
You really want my honest opinion about this?
My question to you is, if this applicant, did agree to mitigate the dust, and especially because that does seem to be the biggest concern for you.
Not the dust, the soil. I really don't know how to put this. This falls on your guys' hands. This is out of my hands. I'll be happy with anything as long as my property isn't impacted by it, as long as my bank account isn't impacted about it. And here's the biggest one, as long as my family's health isn't impacted about this. I told you guys, I'm not against this man doing this. I'm opposed to him doing more work and more stuff on his property that causes my property more damage and more health impacts to my family. You guys are the ones that set forth what he can and can't do, what he's supposed to do. So I'll be happy with anything you guys set forth and he does, if he does it by law. You know, but like here, I see this, he's got a plan to subdivide this property, but that's all his business plan is? We're going to subdivide it and let it run from there. That's your business model? Like, if I'm clearing property, I damn well know what I have planned for that property and what I'm going to do. Now, whether it's duplexes, mobile homes, whatnot, I don't care. It's a free country. The man wants to make money off that property, I'm all for it, but not at the expense and cost of other people's health and safety and lives and bank accounts. So again, I only oppose this if you guys are just going to let him do whatever he wants to there and nobody's going to control him. You know, like, what else am I supposed to say? So, does that make sense?
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any commission or any comments from the commission?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner?
I guess this is Albert. You know, and I'm going to go back to staff recommendation where you said the applicant will provide erosion and dust control measures within 10 days from date of decision to correct grading and grubbing done without a permit. Now, the applicant has stated that he doesn't believe he should be forced to do that. What is your opinion on it?
And just a correction, Commissioner Herrera, that condition on your packet was amended, and it's the one on your screen now. That's the one that staff is proposing. And like I said, I mean, I can have Bernadette come up here and explain a little bit more, but I'll give it a shot. We do allow grading right now on residential property, but it's only up to an acre. So no matter what, just grading 5 acres, that's already a violation of the code right now. So, we're going to stand by our comment and still require the applicant, whether or not he gets his zone change, to still come up with an erosion control plan.
So this is not a condition affecting the zone change. This is just the erosion control.
Preferably, we would want the commission to take action on this, to make it a condition. That way it's recorded as part of the order for this case. So we do want it in writing.
So, yeah, because I'm also concerned about the erosion, and I just want to make sure that any erosion is handled, whether it be zoned as it is now or if we decide to go ahead and rezone it. Okay, thank you.
So, Albert, I guess one of the commissioner's concerns here is that if we do grant this zone change, the applicant has stated that he does not agree with, he's already stated he does not agree with our recommendation to at least mitigate the dust. And I do believe that is a legitimate concern. I do believe that is a legitimate concern in this case. Another question I would have here, I mean, our UDC, was passed in 2017. It appears that the grading and the grubbing, the grading was done in 2019, and you just stated that, grading is permitted in no less or no more than a 1 acre parcel. Was our applicant aware that he was, that he performed the grading and grubbing, without a permit, and still did so anyway? And I do believe that that's been a concern, and it seems that in quite a few of our prior cases, we've seen more and more of this issue with grading, and in some cases, our chamber's been, even fuller with with members of the public addressing this very concern. It's starting to be a, a concern that we really do have to, get a hold, to get a little control on. So how would this be enforced? Should we grant this T3 zoning and our applicant just says he's not going to mitigate the dust?
If the conditions added on the order, and the applicant fails to comply with it, we're on gray ground already. There's an argument that can be made that the zone change is dead, but then that can be figured out in court. But we do have other mechanisms to enforce that condition, whether it's sending code enforcement out there and starting a case on this. And if the applicant fails to comply with that, then that starts court proceedings. And of course, we all know that that's going to take some time, to figure out, to go through the whole court systems. But there are other mechanisms that we have, and mainly through court enforcement.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to issue a rebuttal or response? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Albert.
Thank you.
Yes, gentlemen, please. I think this has been misconstrued or misstated. Under no situation have I stated that I am unwilling to follow the rules and the laws. Certainly not. No. I've been in business for over 27 years, and that is not how we work with different counties ever. What I did state was that by requesting a zoning change, has the commission required, and is part of the requirement for a zoning change to do what you stated, a dust mitigation prevention control measure. And I don't think, or I do not believe that is the case for a zoning change. Now, the word has been thrown very too flexible as far as topsoil erosion. Topsoil erosion is actually caused by natural effects such as wind, water, snow, riverbanks. There is no topsoil erosion. And if there is, I would really like to see that. What we're speaking about is dust. And again, the dust, if you look at the wind patterns, half of the year it comes from the east, which is where the person that has an interest, or the complainant. So half of the year comes from the east. The other half, it comes from the west. Those are wind patterns, and I can provide that information to the commission. And so I just do respectfully disagree that unless the zoning change requirement requires everyone applying for a zoning change to do a dust mitigation, I would definitely follow through with it. I'm not refusing to follow the rules by the commission at all. But go to Chaparral, go to Las Cruces, go to here, anywhere you want in New Mexico, in this area, to see whose dust is on whose yard at any time of the year. But I am not refusing to follow the rules or follow the law. I will do, and I will state, I was not aware that I needed a permit to clear, and so I was not aware. Had that been the case, I would certainly take the measures required, just like we have with other properties. But I was not aware of that. And again, I'm willing to and appreciate the commission providing this zoning change, and that's all that we're requiring. And I am very sorry to the gentleman whose family is suffering for the dust. I'm sorry that your son is in bed. I am. And I don't wish that, but it was not intentional. And my whole apologies to you, Mr. Rose. Mr. Rose, my apologies.
Mr. Rose, please.
And so, to that effect, I didn't know, this was going to cause some difficulties, but again, I am not saying that I will disregard the commission's request, not at all. So I don't want for that to be misinterpreted, Mr. Montañez, at all. But if, again, the part of the zoning changes requests and requires that everybody do some steps, I'm willing to accept those steps if that is part of those rules and requirements for previous, or if there's a precedent for that. And so that's my statement to you, gentlemen.
Just to issue a little bit of clarity here. In the past, we have required for, especially in the case of a recent special use permit case, that dust was to be mitigated. There was some heavy grading done in very close to a residential neighborhood. We had some serious opposition in here to that, and that was a condition that we put forth due to grading done without a permit. So we really do, I mean, it is a condition that we are able to recommend quite often, quite often in agreement with staff recommendation as well. So we're not singling you out or your project. It has been recommended before, and we just want to make sure that that everybody's aware of that.
Yes, and that was, again, I was not aware when we purchased the property. Had I been aware, definitely for sure I would have just followed through, just as I've had with other properties.
Thank you. Any
welcome, sir.
Any other questions or comments for the applicant from the commission?
I have a question, I guess, for Albert. Looking at the two things in the agenda packet that we got, and it was online, we talked about 10 days on the decision for mitigation, and from the recommendations here, it's 30 days. Is there a reason for that? In listening to the people, it seems that 10 days would be a better
No,
timetable.
10 days was something similar that the commission had done on a previous case. What we ended up finding out was, when it comes to hiring engineers and having professional documents being produced, it's cutting it pretty close. So in this case, to try and make everything right, we recommended the 30 days versus the 10 days. And like I explained earlier, just because it does require a grading permit, and it does have to be engineered, stamped, and it does require a SWIP. Typically, those are documents that take a little bit more time to produce.
Okay.
But that's just staff's recommendation.
Thank you. I just wanted the explanation for why. Thank you.
Follow-up question. Having some experience in disturbing of soils and then having to put them back and controlled, I am, number one, I need to ask the question, from 2020 when this happened until today, why was the county, did the inspectors go out? Did the applicant go and grade that without permit, without any notification to the county, period?
That is correct. There was no permit applied for
Okay,
in this case.
so now the neighbors upset, have they ever contacted the county
You know what?
in the last 2 years?
I know Mr. and Mrs. Rose, they stated to me several times that they did try, to contact the county. They talked to, county employees who were out there on the field. They were able to get a hold of them. But when we're going through my agency reviews and talking to codes and county engineering, because I had, once I heard that, I had to go out there and verify that they didn't have a record of anybody calling in for that. So
They did or did not?
there was no record. Nobody had a case on it from 2 years ago. But I did go in, I did ask, code enforcement, they went through all their records and there was nothing called in on their end. That's not to say that Mr. and Mrs. Rose did try to do that, but I didn't have a record on my end, and county engineering did not have a record on their end either.
Okay, so let's say that the county didn't know about it, that the applicant did go out and do it. Now that you were made aware of it when he applied for this application, would the county not then take immediate action for a violation that occurred back in 2020? Regardless of his desire to change the zone or anything like that, would the county not want to take action against someone that actually did need a permit but didn't obtain one?
Yes, but the staff felt that, the appropriate course of action in this case was just to run it through the hearing. I mean, the applicant had already submitted an application for a zone change. So we thought that was the best course of action for now.
Okay. So whether the approval is, or the applicant request is approved or not, he still has to take action from the county standpoint because he violated the rule in 2020. Is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioner Thurston. Whether the zone change is approved or denied, there's still going to have to be some action taken on the property
To bring it in
to compliance.
to comply
Yes, sir.
with, okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? Any further questions, Albert? All right, thank you. Any, okay. At this time, a commission discussion?
I'll make a motion. if you're
Okay.
ready.
This time, the chair will call for a motion.
Okay. Based on the findings of fact and the analysis and comments, I move conditional approval of case Z 22001 zone change from T2 to T3. Conditions, the applicant must provide the erosion and dust control measures for the prevention of damages due to soil movement from wind, water, gravity, and mechanical means within 30 days of the date of decision, to correct grading and grouping without a permit. 5 acres requires a grading permit, engineering stamping, and stormwater pollution protection plan, and these should all be included in that drawing before he proceeds with anything further on that property.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Point of clarification. You're saying within 30 days? Okay.
Based on the question I asked Albert about the 10 days and the 30 days. It's going to take that long to do it, unfortunately.
Okay. Motion's been made. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Herrera. Any further commission comment? Eileen, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Thurston?
Aye.
Commissioner Zarges?
Yes.
Commissioner Herrera? Yes. Commissioner Lear?
Yes.
Chair Montañez?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you again to staff for your presentation and testimony given today. Our next agenda item, case number SU 22-003.
Good job. Gotcha.
Thank you. Okay, I'll just repeat this, Albert. Case number SU 22-003.
I'm just waiting on Felipe. I think he's got it, yeah. All right. Can you start the slideshow, Felipe? I'll let you work it.
While we're waiting, can I go ahead and swear you in?
Sure.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Albert Casillas, 845 North Hotel Boulevard.
Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Felipe. Our second case for today, Commissioners, it's Ryan Strand. He's the applicant for this proposal. It's a special use permit at a property located at 3895 South Main Street. So it's basically there at that intersection of Main and Tortugas Drive. The current zoning is C2, Community Commercial, and the special use permit is to reduce the direct line measurement requirement of 300 feet to a residential area in order to operate a cannabis retail establishment. Here is the location map. So that intersection of Main and Tortugas is where you have the Pickwicks and the auto zone and all that over here. Here's just an aerial of the property. So basically you have a subject parcel, parking lot, you have an access through South Main Street through Tortugas. There's two access points here. You got the mobile home park to the north of it. Behind them, it's a kind of like I believe it's just like kind of like a little ponding area for the mobile home park that's back there. You have the Pickwick, the gas stations, and some of the industrial businesses across Main Street over here. It's almost half an acre. It is a C2. Per the county assessor's office, it's a 2,754 square foot building, built back in 1979. Currently, it's assessed as non-residential. Water and wastewater services are provided by the city of Las Cruces. And the building's been vacant for a couple of years now. Before that, I remember it was a Circle K. You had a Durango Bagel. You had a coffee kiosk out there. And, throughout the years, they've had fireworks stands and food trucks on that property. It was acquired by the current owner on December 4th of 2 years ago. And like I said, Main Street and Tortugas Drive are both New Mexico DOT paved right away. And here's just a close-up of the property. You can see some of the parking areas and entrances and exits to the property. Zoning map. The gray here, it's all city, but when you look at their zoning map, it's still commercial out there. You have industrial here on the across the railroad tracks, and of course the property is zoned for C2. So on March 3rd of this year, Mr. Strand submitted the SUP application, and this is just because on the code, when we did the cannabis amendments, there was that distancing requirement of 300 feet. So you can have a cannabis retail establishment, but you do have to be 300 feet from any residential area. And the fact that there's a mobile home park right north of it, it's triggering this special use permit. According to the applicant, operating hours of the store will be from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., Monday through Saturday, and 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays. There's going to be 4 employees on site during operating hours. They're expecting anywhere from 6 to 12 clients per hour. Parking lot can handle 21 cars and is accessed from Main Street and Tortugas Drive. They're stating that there's going to be minimum impact to the existing traffic, and improvements to interior and exterior of the building include painting of the walls, resurfacing floors, replacing ceiling tiles, updating existing doors, and installing security cameras and alarm systems. with the limited access areas. So here's just a site plan, one of the site plans that was submitted by the applicant. And this is kind of like their survey that they submitted to us. And all that's included on your packet. When it came to notification letters, 13 letters were sent out. Notice was posted in the Sun News. Signs were posted on the property. There was a sign on the corner, and there was a sign attached to the building. So far, there was no correspondence in favor or in opposition to this request. It's a picture of the sign. And those were the properties that were notified. And here's a picture of the structure on the property. You see a picture of the sign that was posted there as well. Kind of looking north here, you see that there's kind of like that buffer between the property and the mobile home park.
Albert, has anybody measured the distance there between the?
You know what? I don't know if I included that picture on the PowerPoint, but for sure there's a picture on your case analysis there.
Page 47.
47, no, thank you. I found it, Albert, thank you.
Wasn't sure. But just for the record, from the closest point of the building, yeah, so from this point to that mobile home right there, it's about 75 feet. And then when you look, when you're measuring from the rear of the building to this mobile home, you're looking at about 65 feet. And then from there, it's like 100 feet to the other nearest mobile homes. And then this is a picture of the rear of the property. Here you see a picture of the entrance. This is the one off of Main. And here you see the entrance off of Tortugas, and then you get to see some of the existing surrounding commercial businesses. Circle K now, AutoZone, and I think there's a Family Dollar back there as well. And that's just the intersection, and then across the street you see all of the industrial businesses that are there. So when we look at special use permits, it's section 350-204 of the Unified Development Code. We also got to look at the section that regulates cannabis establishments and the notice and decisional criteria for special use permits. And then, of course, we got to look at the traffic flows and impacts, the need for new commercial activity, potential water and sewer needs, infrastructure, environmentally sensitive areas, impacts, and the implementation of best management practices. When we look at the code, this is the section of the code that pretty much says that, yeah, you can't be 300 feet from any school or daycare. For cannabis retailers, you got to be 300 feet away from any other retailer, but you also have to be 300 feet away from any residential area as well. And then here we have some minimum standards for operating hours. And this is just additional information for cannabis establishments and just the definition of what a cannabis retailer is that we have in our code.
Do you know if the applicant has plans for on-site consumption?
I believe no, but he's here, so I can.
Thank you.
I'll have him address that right now. This slide pretty much is a summary of what I've already stated. It is C2, and there has been previous businesses on the property before. He gave us a scope of operation, so we have that on the packet and here on the presentation as well. So the Cannabis Act, was approved back on April of 2021. We adopted our cannabis amendments back in December of last year. So retail sales for cannabis started at the beginning of this month. The applicant will have a cannabis production establishment off-site. So he already has, he's working on an off-site property where he's going to be growing his products. So basically, this is going to be the place where he's going to be doing the retail. And then the mobile home park is adjacent to this property and is requiring approval of an SUP because of its proximity to it. So under the land use classification matrix, yes, under the C2, you can have cannabis retail, but it's that distancing requirement that's triggering the SUP. And then just to compare other commercial uses allowed in the C2 zone by right, that without any distancing requirements, you can have commercial laundry, you can have convenience stores, gas stations, retail, bars, pubs, taverns, that kind of stuff. And this is just a picture of our cheat sheet that we have. Cannabis retailer under C2 is allowed, but then we also have to reference that 300-foot distance.
Mr. Chair? I have a question for Albert. Does the state give us any guidelines as to how much leeway we can apply on the 300-foot linear distance for an SUP?
Well, I mean, they have their own requirements, but really what we follow now, it's what's in the Unified Development Code. So 300 feet, that's what the rule is for now in regards to what the state has. We were given the leeway to regulate place, time, and manner, and that was one of the final recommendations from the Board of County Commissioners. Well, actually from you guys and the Board of County Commissioners, the 300 feet.
So that's a great question, because the Cannabis Control Division just pretty much set a standard of 300 feet statewide, but the municipalities and the county could set their own standard. Am I correct there?
That's correct. We can. I mean, there's other municipalities that have gone way beyond that minimum requirement.
I understand the city of Albuquerque has no distance requirements, not even from schools and churches at this point.
Yeah.
I could be wrong there, but.
And that's not to say that we can't come back and later maybe propose another amendment to that standard right there.
Yeah, and the reason I'm saying is because on State Statute 350-502G, on number 3, at the very bottom says that the Planning and Zoning Commission may reduce by the linear footage by a special use permit, but it doesn't say how much. And I don't know if the county has already said how much we can reduce it by.
Well, in this case, it's going to be reduced to 0 because there is a residential property right next to it. And that's why that statement was included on there. We understood that there were going to be some instances where, yeah, I mean, you're going to have existing commercial right next to, a residentially zoned property. So we kind of left that open to have an applicant submit their application, come in here, have it reviewed, and see if that was applicable or not, or if it was something that, we might approve it with conditions. So if it was to be approved, we're not going to be in violation of any state statute. We know that because this is coming out of the county UDC.
Okay, I understand that, thank you, but you're saying it's residential that they're counting the linear footage from, and they're asking the SUP for that. What if it was a church or a daycare center? What would the county be in?
And that was going to be my next point. The state only references daycare centers and schools. Okay. Churches were not included under that definition. So coming up with the 300-foot distance requirement to residential areas, that was a county recommendation, or that's a county standard, not a state standard.
Okay, thank you.
The following slides are just the decisional criteria for staff analysis when we're looking at potential traffic flows. The applicant already stated that there's only going to be 4 people employed on site. We already saw the pictures that there's 2 access points off of Tortugas Drive and South Main Street, and there's about 21 parking spaces out there. The need for the new commercial, Like I said it before, the Cannabis Regulation Act passed last year. We adopted our codes. Retail sales for cannabis started on April, the first of this month. And the applicant does have a growing operation offsite. It's out on the rural area of the county. And he just needs a place where to do his retail side of the operation. City of Las Cruces provides the water and sewer needs. There is existing infrastructure to support the proposed use, and there's no evidence of any environmentally sensitive areas. The impact, so the property itself will have to meet all security measures as required by the Cannabis Control Division. You know, they're going to have alarm systems, digital video surveillance. There's surrounding commercial uses already. We saw in the pictures that there's now it's a Circle K auto-zoned. The New Mexico Pecan company out there, you know, he's already talking about his hours of operation being from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays. Best management practices, you know, those that are identified, noted, and included in the reviews and conditions required for the SUP will be met, and also during the remodel of the existing building. So we believe that the applicant does comply with the decisional criteria. For our findings, those are included on your packet as well. You know, they've met all of the notification requirements. Staff believes that the SUP meets the decisional criteria as requested. There are some distancing requirements for cannabis retails, and that's why we're here today. That's why he's applying for the special use permit. They're not located within 300 feet of a school or daycare center. The P&Z, when deciding on this case, you guys can decide to apply any conditions that you feel are necessary to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And then also, there's the existing structure in itself. You know, it's been vacant for quite a while, and a cannabis dispensary could reactivate an otherwise vacant structure. It's an underutilized area, and the staff believes that it's not going to create any impacts beyond what's already there and what any other regular retail store would create. So we are recommending conditional approval of this case. Two conditions, one of them being that any existing structure and any new construction proposed to be used for the cannabis establishment will be required to meet all applicable construction, fire, and life safety codes. And retail operating hours will be from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays. So those are our conditions for approval of this case. And we stand for questions, and the applicant is present here today.
Albert, in the zoning map, you noted, correct me if I'm wrong, in the parcel across the street where Circle K is, did you mention that that was a city parcel?
Yes, everything in the gray, yes.
Okay.
But
So is that the reason for the, for us reaching out to the city of Las Cruces? You did note in your agency comments.
typically, when it comes to SUPs, and if they're within, 5 miles of city limits, we'll send them an agency review.
And all utilities are provided by the city?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And the applicant is here today, and you guys want to?
Before we hear from the applicant, is there any questions for Albert from the commission? Okay.
I have a question. So this is just a retail, you've stated in here that actually the grow facility is in a different location. Is that location in Doñana County?
Yes, it is in the county.
Have they, is there any issue with the zoning or special use permit for that facility?
No, I'll let the applicant address that, because I know which one it is. I think we've already issued him a zoning verification letter I believe you already have all your state licensing permits. And right now, he's just going through the building permitting process.
Okay, yeah, I think, yeah, and that was my follow-up question, was the state license. And so you've got that, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Albert. This time, I'd like to hear from the applicant, unless there's any other questions. Thank you.
Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Ryan Strand, 3610 North Puget Sound Avenue, Tacoma, Washington, 98407.
Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning,
Thank you.
Mr. Strand. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Commissioners. Really just a brief follow-up on what Albert has said. I think he's explained it very well. But, we're hoping to take a long vacant commercial building on two main thoroughfares south of here and, revitalize that vacant property, provide some jobs for the community. And I think, that a cannabis retail establishment would be a good fit there. There is, it is close to the residential zoning around us. It's not single family. It is all mobile homes. And what's kind of nice is there is a pretty large buffer space with an existing fence that surrounds the mobile home park. So there is no direct line access to the property, which I think, benefits the community if we're trying to keep that buffer zone. I think the only comments that staff has received was from DOT. I've already been working with Maria at NMDOT and a civil engineer, and we should have a new parking and driveway permit plan ready for her approval in the next 7 to 10 days. She's already preliminary approved what we suggested, which is just some minor changes to the access patterns at that site. As mentioned, we are going through the commercial permitting process on our cultivation and manufacturing facility in, it's just off of Smoky Road in Mesquite. We do intend to have that full permit package ready in the next 7 to 10 days as well. We've already gone through that process, pre-application meetings, and think that should be a pretty easy process from here on out. But all in all, we do expect to add at least 20 well-paying jobs to Doñana County as a starting point, and expect that will grow as we expand operations over the years. And I think that's all I have.
Question.
Questions?
Is your establishments for retail sales, there will not be consumption on the property?
No, definitely not.
I have a question. And I don't know if it's for you or if it's for the state or if it's for county. Who came up with the 300-foot buffer between resident and the retail center? We did?
For residential setbacks, that's not a state requirement. That is a county requirement.
So are you telling me that you presented that to us and you're now pushing the finger back towards us that we agree that 300 feet is the recommended required
Chair,
distance?
Commissioner Thurston and Chair Montañez, 300 was a distance requirement that we presented to the P&Z, and it was approved and recommended to the Board of County Commissioners. I think 300, it's also what the city has, but I might be wrong on that. I think they have even less than that. And I know there's probably even talks of maybe amending that already, just based on the number of applications that are being submitted because of existing commercially zoned properties with existing retail that are having to go through special use permits in order to overcome that requirement. So that's not, that's the standard now, but there's nothing saying that we might not come back later with another recommendation for that.
Well, since you're not going to answer it directly, then can I ask our commissioners here, how did we agree that 300 feet was the magic number?
I think, as I recall, and I remember being involved in this with some emails with Janine, The 300-foot basically came from the state
Yes.
when they were doing the cannabis thing, as I recall.
Well-
And it was primarily for schools and
Daycares.
schools, hospitals,
Other
daycares,
cannabis
places like that.
establishments.
I remember saying that I didn't think 300 feet was long enough. I thought it should be more. If you drive along, say, Locust Street over by the university, where there's CBD places like every little shopping center. And I guess what we ended up with was coming down with the 300 feet because it fit with the state and it also fit with the requirements we had here. Is my recollection correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Zargis, excuse me. And additionally, the state is not regulating distancing from residences or other cannabis establishments, but the city was and is. So we mirrored their recommendations at that point.
The one clarification on the city of Las Cruces has a 300-foot residential setback, but it's only from single-family residentially zoned districts, which mobile home park is multifamily residential. So per Las Cruces, that would be allowed with no setback requirements.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I have to say that I'm not real thrilled about that 65-foot setback. But given the area, I guess that's why we're here.
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner Zargis, that mobile home park is fenced off also. So there is not,
Yeah, I saw that.
and then there is a natural buffer with the ponding area and open space also.
And I see that in the recommendations, there's going to be additional security and things.
And we do intend to put a secondary fence on our property to provide an extra buffer. I know it's not a requirement, but that's what we're intending to do.
I want to further add, well, first of all, Albert, your gesture to us is very entertaining. I hope we never see that again, but it would be interesting if we did. During our work sessions, especially that had pretty heavy public participation, and when that was voted on, I do not recall hearing much opposition to the 300-foot requirement. And I do believe that if that had been brought up, that were to potentially be reduced, that could have been taken into consideration. But it seemed to me, at that time when we're putting these requirements in place, that everybody seemed to be in agreement with the 300-foot requirement. Not just us, but we had quite a few people here that were in the process of getting a license that seemed to all be in agreement with the 300. I want to say personally, I do agree with the 300-foot requirement, especially when it comes to residential, single-family residential, and I do understand that this is very close, and I also want to consider that this is right in the middle of commercial zoning and right across the street in industrial zoning, and you have multifamily, and you have a very tight-knit community in Tortugas, right to the west of it, on an arterial highway like South Main. So this is definitely a unique case here that we're hearing. Any further comment from the commission? Any other questions from the applicant? Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you very much. At this time, the chair will call for a motion. I'm sorry, any further public comment?
Not a lot of public here.
I understand. Just wanted to ask. Okay. At this time, the chair calls for a motion.
I'll do it. I'll move, based on the findings of fact, staff analysis, and agency comments, I move conditional approval of case SU 22-003 to operate a cannabis retail establishment, that any existing structures and new construction proposed to be used for cannabis establishment would be required to meet all applicable fire and life safety codes, And retail operating hours will be 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Zardes, second by Commissioner Herrera. Any further commission discussion? Okay. Eileen, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Herrera,
Yes.
Commissioner Thurston,
No.
Commissioner Zarges,
Yes.
Commissioner Lear,
Yes.
Chair Montañez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you again, staff, and for a testimony given today. Thank you again. At this time, may I please request a 2.5-minute break before conditional approval? Thank you very much.
This is not 35 of them, like over in Chaparral.
Might as well.
Gives me a better price on my medical than Pecos does, I'll be happy.
Say that again?
So if he gives me a better price on my medical than Pecos does, I'll be happy.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate
That's a
it.
good idea.
Thank you very much.
Hey, is Vargas Street the one that the Rose Garcia's building in, on your building permits? That Vargas Street? Is that hers, or is that Eddie Benz's? He hadn't got his going? So is that the one that NAI did?
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth.
I figured you knew all things about that stuff.
Well, especially this early on, you know, because a lot of people have this whole growth system that's something on. I'm sorry, not for long. It's all a matter of priorities. All of a sudden, it's all a matter of priorities.
I'm waiting to see what the federal government's going to do, because right now we can't, if you have medical, I can't take it. I'm going to California next week. My granddaughter's wedding.
Well, you know, it's just like, you know, that one that we were looking at down in Chaparral. I mean, they were 5 miles from the Alaska city limits.
Well, you think he's doing it?
Yeah.
He's right up the main road.
You know, they're put a divided highway through there. Yeah.
You make a recommendation, no coffee or tea before the meeting?
True. It's these,
Oh, yes, and we appreciated you as well. And it's probably only going to take 2 minutes to finish
okay.
this up as well.
yes, I'm sorry. Apparently, there were quite a few in agreement with me anyway, so. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so for the month of March, we issued 43 new single-family residential permits.
Wow.
That are depicted in the map. It was a very busy month. And we had 27 additions to the single-family residential. Also, we issued 39 mobile home installation permits, 28 being on private land, and 11 on, 6 in mobile home parks, and then 5 were moved without permits that got triple feed. And then we brought in $89,400 in permit fees.
Janine,
Yes, sir.
the ones in Barino, are those from Tierra del Sol?
Yes, I do believe so. I don't know offhand, but on Vargas, Albert? We can check to be sure, but we're pretty sure that it is the Tierra del Sol housing.
Yeah, I saw that division going up. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? No, okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Janine. All right. Now, moving on to staff input. Any?
Okay, and just a reminder, we do have 4 positions up for reappointment. We received 4 applications, and the Board of County Commissioners will be making the decision on April 24th at the public meeting, so you will need to be in attendance to address any questions that the commission may have of you at that point.
It's actually April 26th.
Thank you. Thank you. I know, that's why I was looking at you. And then we extended the deadline because we only had 3 applications, as Commissioner Thurston decided not to seek a reappointment. So we extended the application deadline till the 20th or 21st? 20th. But we ended up getting another application by 5 o'clock last Friday. So we do have 4 right now. But we are still recruiting.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner, at this time, I'm going to miss seeing you over there.
Yes, Commissioner Thurston, we do appreciate your service, and we will miss you, but I understand that you have bigger and better things to do with your time.
I'm happy to have served, and I'm happy to leave, so. I got a better job offer. How's that? No, the pay is the same.
Actually, it's that dispensary.
I am going to work for a dispensary of food. It's kind of weird. So, no, my church has asked me to do we have a food place to serve El Paso, Las Cruces, Deming, Silver, Hatch, and TRC. So I receive food in, and then I take food out, and then we supply various nonprofits and diapers and formulas for, I don't even know what it's called. So my wife and I, though, we have a 2-year commitment there, so. And I really have a regular job, too, so I didn't think I could take 3 on, so. But I have had fun and learned a lot by being here. So thanks for allowing it to happen.
Oh, thank you very much for your service, Commissioner.
Thank you for the service. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
And, Mr. Chair, I do have one announcement under staff input. And I just wanted to let you know that Albert Casillas got a promotion. He is now senior planner with Doñana County. He took over
Congratulations, Albert.
Luis's position.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So do I still direct all calls, all constituent calls to you, or, okay? All right. Again, congratulations.
Is that correct? We lost Art?
Yes, we did.
Resigned or moved on?
Yes. Art did resign. And we will miss him. He was a great asset to the department.
Call Louis back out of retirement.
Definitely.
So we are recruiting. I think today's the deadline. We have 2 planning positions that are
Oh,
open.
great.
And 2 code enforcement positions open as well.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the update, and again, congratulations, Albert. All right, any commission input?
One more
Oh, I'm
staff
sorry.
input.
Go ahead.
Just one more thing, just because, you guys took action on some previous cases. We do have a number of appeals coming up with the Board of County Commissioners. We have Snow Road, the group home. That one was appealed, so that one's going to go before them.
Yes.
Yeah, on Snow Road, 3851 Snow Road. It's that beautiful property, that had, two homes on it, yeah. They appealed, yeah. Yeah, so that's going in front of the Board of County Commissioners. Actually, no, at the end of April.
I believe it's the same day of our reinstatement hearings.
Wow.
And on the same day, we're going to have the cannabis one that we did in Chaparral. That one got appealed to. So they're gonna
Which
have-
one, Albert?
Huh?
Which one?
The cannabis in Chaparral. That one, on Paloma Blanca, yeah, he appealed, and so that one's going to be on the same day. And then after that, on May, we're going to have the church on Del Rey. I think was that the other appeal? Yeah.
That's a church out on Del Rey?
On Del Rey, yes. Del Rey and Webb,
So that is being appealed by the residents?
yes.
To the county, to the county commissioners.
Are we allowed to discuss any of these appeals during staff or commission input?
I probably wouldn't recommend it.
I'm sorry,
But I
just-
just wanted to give you guys an update.
The reason I ask is it's, from what I've understood in the past, it's kind of discouraged for planning and zoning commissioners to attend or give input at an appeal hearing. Am I correct?
I would say yes, that. It is a de novo hearing, and we are relaying your record to the Board of County Commissioners.
So I just do want to, I mean, in that particular case with the Snow Road Rehabilitation Center, many of us gave a reason for our, for denying that special use permit, and I believe the majority of our concern was that the operation had already been running for at least a year before they applied. And I don't know if, I don't know how that, if that's a legitimate enough reason for the Board of Commissioners to uphold our ruling.
Yeah, Chair, but just for the record, I mean, when we do the appeals, part of our submittal includes everything on the record. They're going to get the minutes, they're going to get the case analysis, you're going to get a copy of the recorded P&Z order, PowerPoints, they get all that information, so they can go over it.
I did receive, I did receive a sort of a list of reasons for that appeal. Before we started, I actually shared that with Commissioner Lear. And I believe they had an attorney representing them that pretty much accused us of not being consistent with the Unified Development Code in our ruling. And I mean, of course, the reason I'm bringing this up, I'm actually glad that this was brought up. I've always felt that this commission, part of our goal is to keep as many appeals, I mean, just to keep appeals to somewhat of a minimum. We don't want our Board of Commissioners being inundated with, with a number of appeals. I feel like, it could paint a, a picture that this commission, isn't issuing the right rulings. That's just always something that I've taken into consideration when ruling on a case. In that particular case, it was clear that they were going to appeal. And I believe they even mentioned it during testimony.
My conscience is clear on that.
Yes. Mine is as well. Okay. Thank you. Any other staff input? Okay. And so no commission input. Commissioner Thurston has called for adjournment. Second. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.